at 6:33. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas state flag.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we'll have invocation by Mr. Flores this evening.
Our dear and kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we're grateful this evening for the opportunity to be gathered here this evening as a small group of children to thank Thee for the opportunity that we have to serve Thee in this capacity. We're grateful for our administrators and our teachers and all those who in some way impact the students of our community. We're grateful for all their efforts, and we ask blessings upon them. We ask blessings upon those who may be struggling financially or spiritually or emotionally, that in some way we may be a hand in their recovery. We ask that Thy Spirit may accompany us today during this meeting, that we may discuss those things that are important to our community and our children specifically, that we will make righteous decisions and help them along their way into their careers. And we pray for these things humbly in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Flores. At this time, we'll do introduction and roll call. Ms. Jones.
Dr. Wolfstrike.
Present.
Mr. Jason Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Leanna Hardy.
Here.
Mr. David Monkey-Myers. Melissa Myers.
Here.
Alejandro Flores.
Here.
Tam Blackwood.
Here.
And Eleanor English.
Here.
Not present is David Monkey.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Very well done. At this time, we'll do approval of minutes. I need a motion to discuss and approve the regular board meeting minutes from May 15th.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, Superintendent Spotlight. Dr. Strike?
Thank you, President Myers. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ed Griffin. Mr. Griffin acted as our facilitator for our group, along with working with Huckabee and trying to bring our group to a consensus. And it was a long process with up to, depending on what evening it was, up to 40 people or so that participated across our community from various areas to arrive at what we would see as both short-term and then longer-term needs of the district in terms of facilities. And Mr. Griffin will be presenting this evening along with the folks from Huckabee, where this work has taken us up to this point. So I will turn it over to Mr. Griffin, and I may note that Mr. Griffin is also the president of the Little Elm Education Foundation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we're glad that we have a good turnout from the community here. This process is all about the community and all about the students. And the community composed our committee. And I'd like to ask if there's any ones of our committee members that are here. And I know that we've had a lot of trustees participate, but if you just please stand. Is any members here? Thought I saw 6, and I'm right on the money. Okay. But I want to thank each of y'all, as well as the 30-some others that participated in this process. It was a was a long process from the standpoint of the timing, but I think the process really was as important as the product that we will uncover tonight for you, because it really built in the integrity of the desires, the expectations, and the needs of the community as it continues to grow and evolve. And then the parallel of the fact that we need to make sure that our school system is ready for the kind of changes and is ready for the growth and development of Little Elm and the Little Elm School District. I'm going to see if I don't get too far ahead of myself. That's the committee, and that's part of the people that just stood. But I think that we really owe a great deal of appreciation to the many, many hours that this group spent deliberating, offering ideas, suggestions, getting into areas of competitive, constructive debate about what we are needing to have and how the best way to realize the needs that our school system has. The charge of the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee was the needs of our children will always outweigh the wants of our adults. We have, as adults, expectations, but we have to focus on the facts that our children actually have specific needs that we need to objectively look at and consider when we're trying to spend tax dollars and plan for their future. The facility planning process actually did cut across the entire community. We assisted the district in evaluating the growth and the aging facilities that we currently have and that's trying to meet our ever-growing needs. We were supposed to and did assess and prioritize those needs, including, but not limited to, the district's growth and capacity, the building ages, safety and conditions, and evolving educational delivery, and the programs that are needed for the kinds of demands that our students will face as they enter into the world. We needed to create a long-range plan with a vision for the future, for our district, and for each individual campuses that are involved. Provide a facilities and equipment recommendations to the Little Elm ISD Board of Trustees, as we're going to do tonight. I'm not going to read each of these slides, but I do encourage you to glance up at them and make sure that you understand the very comprehensive process that our committee went through over the past 2 months. The background on the process is very important as well. About 2 years ago, the district engaged Huckabee and Associates and hired a lot of experts in a lot of different fields to help assimilate the baseline information that is needed to study the future. We had demographic projection updates. We had district-wide facility assessments. We basically focused on how do we deliver education. And we looked at some unique and innovative and creative ways to do that. And we're trying to make sure that our facilities will allow us to do that as we move forward. So we looked at each of the districts and each of the campuses in that long-range planning process and tried to figure out how can we coordinate advancement, development, refinement, renovation as we proceeded with that. And we also looked at the facility operations. Some of our facilities are not able to operate at an optimal level, and we needed to look at how can we maximize their potential. And then we also took into consideration the long-range planning for each of our facilities. And lastly, we did a community survey, which was incredibly important and very interesting as we proceeded in our deliberations. I'm going to let you just look at and review the background on the process itself, but essentially we met every other week for about 6 meetings in the past 3 months. We reviewed an incredible amount of documents and data, statistics, growth trends, especially as it was going to impact our kids. We prioritized the needs of the district, and I must say that that was with a great deal of sincerity and interest of not anybody but the students and their best benefit. We graded each of the potential projects. We analyzed them thoroughly. We put them under an incredible microscope and tried to make sure that the recommendations that we're providing to you tonight and to the Board of Trustees were built upon a solid foundation of exact needs of the students and the world that they will go out and hopefully be successful, which we have a lot of confidence that they will. We also looked at the tax implications. We did community survey results and looked at all the different programs throughout the school system. As I mentioned, we spent an incredible amount of time hearing from a lot of professionals on staff and consultants that we had hired to give us objective information and data-driven information and not just subjective thoughts, but ones that could be absolutely quantified so that we could deal with facts and not just theories. The Huckabee team of consultants gave us great assessments of each of our facilities and went down into the plumbing, electrical, and other needs that our technologies that our facilities are going to have. We also conducted a demographic study that we have an enrollment right now of 7,300 kids, and we projected out a 5 to potential 7-year growth plan for that. And we're expecting about 1,500 new students in the next 10 years. So I'll let you look at the enrollment projections and give you an idea of some of the momentum and gravity that we had to deal with as far as making sure that we were adequately prepared to meet the needs of both growth and also quality development of our educational programs. We also had excellent input from our financial experts on the ISD staff, and they had given us some of the information that we have on the district's financial information here, where the maximum we were going to deal with is a 13 cents bonding capacity, and the goal was to try not to exceed 10 cents. And the 10 cents goal I'll bring to mind now is with a 7 to 10 year projection based upon various things that may happen. The work that I do requires a lot of information about growth and demand of services, infrastructure, and things like that in this area. And I can assure you, we spend a lot of time looking at the potential for growth, and we're sure it's going to come to Little Elm as it is to other outlying cities. We did an incredibly interesting community opinion survey. And it said the results of this scientific random sample, which means that we didn't go out and talk with people that we thought would give us the answers we were looking for, but it was a very scientific survey, indicated that 58% would right now vote for a $150 million bond program. 26% would vote against it, and 16% were unsure. A majority of the voters, both parents and non-parents, are opposed to a tax impact of 24.73 cents on average income. But I will share with you that after we provided them more information about the needs and the possibilities of fulfilling some of the expectations of the students and the needs of the students, that the possibility of a bond approval went up to 71%, which is a great testimony to the community here and to the voters as far as the fact that they want to support what is needed for the schools here to take care of their kids. We broke down the comprehensive discussions into priority group 1, 2, and 3. And priority 1 was to address the current and projected growth in the district and make capital improvements to our existing facilities. Our projected analysis is that would be about $170 million. Priority 2 was to improve and expand our athletic and career technology education, the CTE facilities, which is about $50 million. And the third priority was to maintain and upgrade our facilities district-wide in terms of security and the ever-important technology and infrastructure, which was just slightly south of $5 million. So the total long-range facility recommendations ended up to be $225,863,000. Also, and you're going to hear from the Huckabee representatives in just a moment to give you an idea of the categories or buckets of where we felt those recommendations needed to be. Priority 1 was a new middle school, 2, Lakeside Middle School replacement, and 3 under priority 1 was capital improvements project. Priority 2 was a new multi-purpose indoor facility. And the second item under priority 2 is a new baseball and softball facilities. And keep in mind, as we talk about these individual projects, they have multiple applications. It's like a domino effect in terms of how they help kids grow, they build leadership. It's the overall child development that we were looking at in terms of committee recommendations. And the third priority under priority 2 was athletic renovation to the existing high school. And in priority 3, renovation to athletic complex and safety and security improvements, which also has to deal with the HVAC system and other things, fiber optic backbone and the upgrades, and I'll let the Huckabee team share with you more about the details of that. But I'm very pleased that after this long process of taking into consideration all the opinions and all the ideas and the constructive criticisms, comments, and recommendations of everybody in this group, which was about 40 plus people over a 2-month or 3-month period of time, I believe we have successfully boiled down to the top priorities and been able to rank them and to put monetary amounts next to each of them so that we can, with good faith and confidence, recommend to the board that the trustees consider how to advance these recommendations to fruition. Essentially what we want to say is we're not recommending a bond program. We're recommending that you need $225 million worth of liquidity to address these programs. And I will have some closing comments after I recognize Steve from Huckabee to give you the details of the projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Steve Hafer with Huckabee. Of course, I get the honor of coming up here and talking to you about the projects. But I want to quickly recognize the real stars behind all of this and the team who worked very hard to put this together. Megan Smith is our Director of Bond Services. heavily instrumental in making sure that the committee had the information that they needed to do and continue on and work through that process. Mike King is a planner in our office. He was not able to be here this evening, had a conflict. And then Paul Thompson, who is associate principal for Little Elm ISD, it was very instrumental in putting together and developing the numbers that you're going to be looking at this evening. So I'm going to kind of walk through the project breakdown for priority one. One of the things I do want to state as you're looking at these numbers, what you're seeing is a total project cost number this evening. So these include construction cost as well as the soft costs, which include FF&E, fees associated with that, and escalation built in there, anticipating based upon the schedule they would be required. And we'll kind of walk through that a little bit more as we go through that. So within priority one, as we looked with the district at where the need was going to be occurring, based upon your demographic study, the district's biggest need is in the middle school and in the elementary campuses. Your high school facility relative to capacity can achieve your goal of looking out through the 10-year period, but your elementary and middle school will not be able to accommodate that. So with the heaviest growth being in the middle school. So that was the first thing that came up, was that we needed to look at building a new middle school. So what you're looking at here is a new middle school for 945 functional capacity, which when we utilize the term functional capacity, there's a formula that goes into it. You can actually put more kids in a school, but this is the ideal functioning capacity. You can actually put 1,000 to 1,100 kids in a school of this comparable size. So you can actually achieve with, when you're looking at the two middle schools, you'll see that we have functional capacities of 945, but you can actually achieve your 10-year goal of being able to achieve 2,000 students in your middle school. You see that we build the middle school with a core facility to accommodate your feeder program to be able to feed into your ultimate high school. That was part of the discussion that as everything appears right now, Little Elm ISD will stay a one high school town. So that school can eventually grow somewhere projected down the road to potentially 3,400 to 3,600 students. So these two middle schools would feed into that. Also, one of the things that we have to do now under the new building codes is tornado shelters are a requirement under the new IBC 2015, which I believe Little Elm, the city of Little Elm is in the process of adopting if they have not adopted it already. Also, to accommodate the new middle school, we have money in there for land purchase because that would be something that would be required to accommodate the location most likely for the middle school. With a projected opening of August 2020, that's the first facility that would immediately start should a bond program go forward and it passes, and then you begin the design process to meet that deadline. So you see that a new middle school total project cost of a little over $66 million. Lakeside Middle School, we looked with the committee and the administration at actually multiple options of how to accommodate and address Lakeside Middle School. If you go out and build a new middle school, how do you address it from a comparability, just from a programmatic standpoint, being able to provide the same services that you would within a new middle school. We looked at just renovating it. We looked at renovating it and adding on to it. After the conversations with the committee made the recommendation that they felt the best money to be spent would be to tear down the existing, because of the age of the facility in the original building, would be to tear down the existing facility and build a second middle school, basically replacing Lakeside Middle School with a new facility. So that's what you see here. it would be basically a match of the existing. It would be a prototype design of the first one that is being built. And it would include replacement or renovations of the track and field to bring it up into standards with the new facility, with a projected opening of August 2022. And I've got a timeline here that will kind of show you kind of how all that has to take place. The estimated cost of that facility with its escalation is $75 million.
Steve, would it be
here's the
Steve, would it be appropriate on that, just for people's knowledge, that the renovation of taking the existing building, renovating it with escalation was like $73 million? It was about a $2 million spread, I think, to build a completely new building.
Well, yes, sir, you're absolutely correct. With the ability to renovate the existing one and make it work functionally, and the required addition would be almost the equivalent cost of building new. If you just renovated it, you would have to build a larger middle school. That was one of the things that we looked at. If we just renovated the middle school, because the capacity with the renovation at the middle school, I think it was 800, so we would have to go out and build a 1,200 student middle school to be able to accommodate the 2,000 students. So, and then look at adding on to the middle school somewhere down the road. So there were a lot of concerns that were brought up with different size middle schools, be it the ability to be able to compete with each other, be able to also grow up together in a similar type environment. But yes, the addition renovation one, to get it comparable with a new facility, was about the same cost. I don't have that shown here, but that is something that we did investigate. You're absolutely correct, Dr. Strike. Thank you. As far as you're looking at the two middle schools, 945 student functional capacity, that gives you a functional capacity of 1,890. As I stated, with efficiency factors and stuff that we utilize, we don't always what we don't take into account is, when we're developing functional capacity, is athletics, band, and art. And in a middle school, those are actually those are spaces that can actually be utilized as teaching spaces and can be rotated. Since middle school does rotate through like a high school, they're actually teaching spaces, so that capacity is actually higher. That's why we say that you actually will be able to achieve the full 2,000 student capacity within that 10-year window that's shown in the projection, in the demographic projection. The next item is addressing the elementary growth. One of the things that was considered was to, when we first started, was to look at the potential of a new elementary. As we started looking at everything, the committee's recommendation was to, as we pull the middle schools out, one of the things that we were looking at was that the middle school would become a 6-8 campus at both facilities. Prestwick would then be converted to a K-5 campus, so those 6th and 8th graders would come out into the comprehensive middle schools. We would then take PAL, which would be available, and convert into an elementary. For a minimal amount of cost, we could accommodate the elementary growth for the next 10 years. We needed about 700 to 750 kids, and through those two modifications that we're showing here on this slide, the conversion of PAL as well as the conversion of Prestwick allows us to accommodate that. So, and you see $4 million for PAL. A lot of that is items that there's some other stuff that you'll see coming up here in the capital improvements here in a minute. A lot of this stuff was identified in the capital improvements that are things that just need to be addressed, and repairs that need to be done to that facility already. So that's why that number is considerably higher, whereas Prestwick, there's some money put in there for some furniture and some minor modifications, but that is a relatively new facility, so there's really no work to be done within it. So This is the committee's recommendation on the grade alignment. Currently, you have the pre-K 5, you have a 6th grade facility over at Powell, and then you have 7, 8 at Lakeside Middle School. So the proposed new alignment would be K-5s at every facility, including Powell, and then 2 new elementaries at 6, 8. Any questions on that? Okay. As we develop the numbers, and this is something that we have to look at, is how the projects could potentially play out and what would be designed first. In order to accommodate the needs, we would have to build the new middle school first. We would have to then maintain the existing configuration for a period of time while we move the students in Lakeside, the 7th and 8th graders, out into the new facility. Then we would come back, tear down Lakeside, build the new middle school campus. Then we would pull the sixth grade out and make it a full 6, 8 in 2022. And that's what this timeline kind of shows, kind of the process. So you wouldn't be at a full middle school, true middle school configuration until 2022. So you kind of have to step that process through to make it work out. This is the capital improvement projects. I'm not going to go through this whole list. This is something that we did. We did an assessment of every campus in the district back in the summer of 2015. These were items that were identified: HVAC issues, ADA issues, roofing issues that needed to be repaired on every campus. And this is the summation of all of those needs on your older campuses that need to be addressed. And you see a list here that goes through that. We have an itemized breakdown of everything that has to be done. But this is the kind of a synopsis of what needs to be done. Priority number 2, as I stated, from a basic functional capacity within the high school, you can accommodate your growth for the next 10 years, but there were a lot of programmatic deficiencies at the high school that were brought up for discussion within the committee and considered. And these are those items that are included within that. There was the recommendation for a new multipurpose facility on the high school campus. As you see, it includes an 80-yard indoor field with 1 end zone on one end. That was a decision that was made to allow, that would give the band the length to be able to practice within that facility when they need to. It has 14 feet around the field lines. It would have the weight room, all the coaches' offices, all the outdoor athletic lockers would be moved out into the new, in essence, field house within that space. And then the main training room would be moved out to that area. So you see there's a cost of $29 million for that facility. As part of the discussions and looking at the overall master plan of the campus, when we were looking at it, there was a lot of debate. Well, where would that facility go? Would it go across the street over on the property close to the lake, or where could we fit it on the high school campus? After a lot of discussion and debate, when we're looking at the number of students that will be going to this facility, it was decided that it needed to stay on the main campus. So we started looking at other opportunities. There's a lot of things that need to be done. There's money currently, I think, that was assigned to some improvements at the baseball softball field, and there's additional money that needs to be spent at the baseball softball field. So in the conversations with the committee, it was determined that we felt that that was the best long-term use of the district's money, was to abandon the baseball, softball field at its current location, build the multi-purpose center and field house there, and then move baseball and softball across the street onto the land that the district owns across the street, minimizing the number of students that have to actually cross the street to go practice. So that's why you see a new baseball, softball facility at the high school across Waterside Street. That's $9.5 million. That would be some parking, there's concession restroom buildings. We're actually, part of what we have, we had money for baseball, softball, locker rooms in the outdoor field house. We've since talked about, well, we can move that money over across the street and potentially build their locker rooms next to their fields across the street, if that's something that the district so desires to do. So you see that number at $9.5 million. There's the existing athletic renovations. There's just some needs at your existing facilities. You need to resurface your track. There's money in there. Actually, when we move the facilities out into the field house, that frees up space within the existing locker room space to better configure that to accommodate additional programs, whatever that might be. There was discussion about adding potentially wrestling program into the high school. So you would have the ability for wrestling locker rooms as well as also a potential mat room in this space. There's space to be able to accommodate that. We have not specifically designed or master planned exactly what's going in that space, but we have money in there to renovate it. The age of the turf on your practice field is getting to a point it's still usable, but those fields are supposed to be replaced about every 8 to 10 years, depending upon the usage. Somewhere during the time in the near future, that will need to be replaced. So we have money in there to replace the turf as well as resurface the track. The tennis courts also need to be resurfaced. It's just over time that age and that you need to put a new surface on it. We also have in there the cost to provide 2 practice fields, one for soccer capability. We're investigating, looking at the master plan, can we make all that fit across the street, or how exactly that works on here, but we have the money in here to provide 2 practice fields. As you continue to grow, you're just going to need that space. Fields become a premium of the ability to be able to for the coaches to be able to manage practice time and be able to get field time. So the next item, $4.9 million, is this is something that was brought up that the committee thought was very important, was the career and technology opportunities at the high school. There was a lot of discussion. We actually had more items that were thrown out for consideration. The committee landed on these recommendations. They felt that this was, at this time, was the best expenditure of the taxpayers' dollars to get, in essence, the best bang for their buck. We had looked at cosmetology. We also looked at I think there was a horticulture lab. There was also an auto tech. Not to say that these programs are not important, but they're very expensive to build and they're very expensive to maintain. So just in the conversations, the committee decided that, based upon the information that, as they looked at everything, that they felt that this was the best use of the money to be able to provide some more opportunities to the students at high school.
Steve, can I also make a comment on that the committee talked about, and Dr. Tipton in particular, that while there's lots of other programs out there, as our high school continues to grow, that these are programs already in place or successful, And if we added new programs, what you would run into with your population, your high school, till it reaches a larger population, is cannibalization of the programs you have, which could bring on extra costs in terms of staffing, low numbers in certain classes, master schedule issues. And so if I'm speaking correctly, Dr. Tipton, you felt like, let's get these programs strong and filled. Then down the road, we start to look at what expansion of programs would be so it doesn't eat into already successful programs. Thank you, Steve.
Well, and you will be adding a culinary arts program this fall, so that's very exciting. Priority number 3, these are district-wide improvements that the committee felt needed to be included within the scope of work that was to be considered. The first item, $3.4 million, is the Little Elm Athletic Complex renovations. This is resurfacing, this is the stadium. So this is the resurfacing of the track. This would be an addition of a true shot put area for competition purposes, because that's where all your track events from a competitive standpoint are held, to provide them the proper arena to do their competition. There needs to be some scoreboard components that need to be repaired. There was also a lot of conversation about concession, air conditioning in the concession. That got a very, very good consensus for all the people who have had to work it in the past. The next item these are safety and security improvement items that were provided by the district through a review of just items that needed to be included. Most of it includes security cameras, upgrades, some access control, and some fencing. So that is a little over $1 million there. Then there's also some additional technology. There's a fiber backbone upgraded at each of the facilities. Obviously, that's very important for districts as they move forward, and however you want to deliver your curriculum and what districts choose to use as their protocol for technology. Everybody's always looking for more bandwidth. So this is something that we've seen a lot of districts make a priority as they start to move forward. Then we also need to put dedicated HVACs to the IDFs and MDFs in some of your existing campuses. These are when the air gets shut down, to the MDFs. So all that computer equipment is in there running at an elevated temperature, which shortens the life of your computer equipment. So this is a critical item that needs to be addressed pretty soon to make sure that you're maximizing on your return the investment that you make. So there's the overall list of everything combined. As Ed showed, $225,863,000. We rounded up to get to at least take it to the nearest $1,000. Next steps, we believe, you have some time before you have to call. You have to call the election by Monday, August 21st. So there is some time for the board to review, ask questions. We would recommend that maybe you have, if so choose, you have a workshop session where we can sit down and dive into a little bit more detail, anything that y'all would like to know. We're moving forward to a November 2017 election, so you see the other dates that are in there dealing with the deadline to register to vote, early voting, and the election day would be Tuesday, November the 7th, if you proceed forward with a bond election. So with that, I'm going to ask Ed to come back up if he has any closing comments, and then fire away.
Well, since it's almost 7:30 or so, what we've tried to do is build a sandwich. I tried to give you kind of the bottom line and the vision, and Steve, like my wife, provided all the details, kind of the heart of the sandwich. She's German by nature, so she's always into the details, and I just try to do the high and the low, and we've managed 38 years, and hopefully she'll continue to do the middle part of the sandwich for me. But Steve, I think, has gone through all the details. Before I just wrap it up, I want to thank particularly the members of the trustees who faithfully came to many of our meetings, and so this is not a surprise or new items to many of the trustees who've gone through this organic process with us. And let me again stress the importance of the process. The demographics of the committee were such that we had an equal amount of men, women. We had all school districts represented. We had left-handed people, right-handed people. We broke this thing down to where everybody had a place to sit and to converse and to express opinions. And I think that we accurately represented the heartland of the community. No stone was left unturned to make sure that we got input from every aspect of this community. We had public sector, private sector, people that had kids in the schools, people who didn't have kids in the school but represented an important part of the voter process. People who were very community-minded, others who maybe have not been as participatory as others have, and yet they still had an interest in the future of students. So I can't applaud enough our committee members, and thank you again for being here tonight. For those who weren't able to make it tonight, I appreciate them as well. But we especially appreciate the Board of Trustees for taking our recommendations and the information we've been able to generate. And Dr. Strike, I want to compliment you and your staff on outstanding information that we had. We could not have deliberated as well or as informed if we did not had the outstanding presentations that we had, background information, emails, documents that allowed us to, with knowledge, make some decisions and judgments about the priority, the three buckets that we had, and the issues and the projects we felt as though were of the highest priority. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the trustees might have, but I can promise you that an awful lot of time and thought was put into this, and we present these recommendations to you based upon our best judgment of what the school district needs and the system needs, but most importantly, what the students need.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Any questions from the board at this time?
Not yet.
Mr. English?
Yeah, my comment is just thank you very much for time and effort. You know, when we look at things like this, you know, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, this is going to be tremendously important to the community and students. So I want to thank the community and your board and committee for doing what they're doing. So
it's been our pleasure, and we mix the concrete. Y'all have to pour the foundation.
I just have a couple of clarifying questions.
Sure.
And first of all, thank you to the committee for participating all those weeks. I purposely did not attend the meetings because I didn't want to feel like I was influencing any of our committee members as a trustee. So I purposely did not attend for that reason, not because I couldn't be there or didn't want to be there. But just to clarify, I believe you said that we built in some cost in there for inflation.
Yes.
Obviously, we don't want the same thing to happen that happened with the bus barn, where we've seen that increase over the last several years, but we've got that built in already.
Yes, we have escalation built in based upon, it's information that we receive from the AGC, as well as we're constantly checking with our contractors that we work with in the area to make sure that we're anticipating and understanding what they're seeing in the bid market. So.
Just got recorded over there, so. A couple more. Mr. Griffin, when you did the survey for the $150,000 in the participation of folks that would vote positively on that, did you happen to do a survey on 220, what was it, 200? Right, was there a survey done for that to see what the participation would be like?
The survey was actually conducted before we came up with the $225 million. So at this point, we're recommending to you, based upon our assessment of needs, the fact that you need to dutifully consider, with all due respect, the $225 million of expenditures towards improvements in the capital needs of the district. Now, whether or not you want to do it in one bond program, a series of years of bond programs, if you've got some capital reserves you want to use, there's an integration of different sources and resources that will allow you to achieve what we're recommending to you, we feel as though you need in order to meet the benchmark of $225 million. So that's why we intentionally did not come to you tonight and recommend that you float a $225 million bond. We wanted to make sure that our recommendation to you was a committee's recommendation of needs assessment, the bond capacity that you have, the physical needs and demands of your capital programs right now, and moving forward, looking to the educational programmatic needs that you might have, what the physical facilities would need to have in terms of renovation, tearing down, building up, new ones, in order to facilitate the needs of the students in the future. Long way around your question is we don't have an assessment on $225 million because we needed to do the survey in advance of the number that we came up with the last meeting that we were at.
Thank you very much.
But we're sure that you're going to make wise and judicious decisions. And we're going to support you all the way.
Well, and I would like to add on just one thing. If you look at the survey, when we did the $150 million on the survey at that time, based upon what we thought that the growth within the district was going to be, it was $150 million, but it was a 10-cent tax increase. And the community was in support of that 10-cent tax increase. And if you look at the recommendation from the committee, it's do not go above 10 cents. You build it as you grow into it.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? I would just echo the comments made. Thank you, Mr. Griffin, for kind of overseeing the committee, understanding, the dynamics, keeping everybody informed, as well as moving forward on the right path. Huckabee, thank you as well for attending all those meetings. Dr. Strike, for your leadership. I know a lot of this came down to you to help organize and put together, so we appreciate it as a board, getting this information and being able to digest a little bit and then schedule some workshops here in the coming weeks. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity to shepherd an important project. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, Ms. Jones, do we have any citizen input?
No.
Okay. All right, next up is reports of the superintendent. Dr. Strike?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, would like to introduce Courtney Clover, Director of Special Programs, and she's doing her annual update on special populations to give the board an overview of this past year and some of their accomplishments and programs that would be of interest.
Good evening, President Myers, Dr. Strike, and the Board of Trustees. Thanks for having me this evening. Like Dr. Strike said, my name is Courtney Clover. I'm the Director for Special Populations, and tonight I'm going to share with you just a brief overview of our program and some highlights from this year. Special Populations, the department that I help lead and guide, really deals with two distinct populations of students. Both of those populations of students are services for students with disabilities. The first is Section 504, and the other group of students are students who are eligible for special education. Currently in the district, we have 523 students who are identified as eligible for Section 504, and we currently have 608 students identified as eligible for special education services in the district. Section 504 is probably something that you guys have heard of. It really is a federal anti-discriminatory civil right mandate that really protects people with disabilities. And in schools, we're required to meet the needs of students with disabilities as adequately as we would meet the needs of students without disabilities. And so really, most often in Little Elm, the most often that we see eligibilities for Section 504 are things like dyslexia, ADHD, diabetes, food allergies. Those are just kind of some examples of eligibilities for Section 504. Additionally, is special education, which is also part of Section 504. But these are students who also need additional and more significant services. So eligibility for special ed is a disability under at least one of 13 disability categories in Texas, plus the student requires specially designed instruction or related services. Currently in Little Elm ISD, the three disability categories that we have the most of our students are speech impairments, learning disability, other health impairment, and autism. We also, just a highlight, if you didn't know, we serve eligible children with disabilities from birth to the age of 22. So we, in conjunction with ECI, which is Early Childhood Intervention, we actually serve students who are deaf, blind, or a combination of being deaf and blind from birth. And then they transition to us from the age of 2 as they're turning 3 for services. We also have an extension where we have students who stay with us until they age out at 22 for those continued services until they are either connected to agencies to continue their adult services. And ECI really is that early intervention agency that provides those early transition services for our babies. I did want to share with you guys some spotlights that we really wanted to bring to light as kind of shining pieces of special populations. One of our shining areas is tuition-based pre-K. So this is a program that we started about 2 years ago. We created tuition-based pre-K intentionally for our 3-year-olds that I was just talking about with disabilities, for a place for them to have access to non-disabled peers. Most of our little itty-bitties coming in typically have speech impairments or we suspect autism, and really what they need is really strong peer models for great language development, for play development. And so what we needed was not only really good teachers with them, but they needed play models. And so we started the tuition-based pre-K program where children who aren't eligible for pre-K can pay to come to school and stay all day, who are 3 and 4. With that, we've created a least restrictive environment for our 3 and 4-year-olds. And we've also been able to create $59,000 in revenue per classroom that helps contribute back to the general fund. So we've also expanded to 2 classrooms and have a waiting list. So it's a great connection to the community. We have lots of people who really want to have access to certified teachers with their little ones versus daycare. So we're really proud of our tuition-based pre-K program. Another spotlight, and this is something that I'm really proud of, is really a partnership that we've had with Curriculum and Learning this year, which is the implementation of really an extension in Google called Snap and Read Universal. It is actually just what I said, an extension in Google where we have students with disabilities or students with language acquisition. So some of our students who are ESL and bilingual can utilize this extension in Google to read aloud text to them. It can translate it into 26 languages, and it can simplify text that's on their computer in front of them in real time immediately. So it really creates universal access for them. It doesn't have an adult sitting next to them, reading to them, making them look different. So we're really proud of partnering with technology and partnering with curriculum and learning to create this universal access for our students. And like I said, the extension of technology. I do think that it also it speaks to equipping our students, which is part of what we are constantly striving to do. I mentioned before ECI, our babies that come to us that transition from 2 to 3. We do partner with ECI as well, and we allow them to have an office space out at Oak Point, which helps create a great partnership with ECI, so we know who our kids are coming into us. Otherwise, they transition into us. We don't really have any idea of how many kids to plan for. So having that partnership and that relationship with ECI really helps us plan and prepare for our itty bitties coming into us. So that's been a really great partnership as well. This year, we've also been able to partner with Little Elm ISD Childcare. So Lisa Hooten and her crew have been really gracious. We brought in Dr. Tony Linder, who is the guru of play-based assessment, to help train our school psychologists, our speech paths, and our diagnosticians. And Lisa partnered with us for us to use real kids. So we were really, really, really grateful for her partnership in allowing us to work with her so that we could use real kids in simulations. And it really helped promote our adult learners. Another spotlight partnership is really with CTE. So Dr. Tipton and I really, I think, have partnered on a couple of projects. One of them is our course selection guide descriptors. So we have really created a guidance document. So when our art committees are determining what courses a student will take, we have better descriptors of what those courses look like. And that's been a project that we've worked on together. And then we've also brought in, for professional learning, we brought in a professor from A&M who is working with CTE and special ed teachers on increasing access. Special education also participates in what we call SHARS, which stands for School Health and Related Services. Only students with IEPs we can bill for services during the school day if they are Medicaid eligible. Primarily, those things are personal care, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, psychological services, and transportation. Annually, the special education staff in interim claiming brings in about $200,000 in revenue into the general fund. The cost report annually, including salaries, supplies, and materials, brings in about $800,000 annually into the general fund. So special education staff bring about $1 million a year into the general fund revenue. And last is just really celebrating our most recent event in Special Olympics. And so I just wanted to thank the planning committee and all of our board members who were able to attend this spring, and shared just a couple of pictures. And our most favorite And that's all I have. Looks like everyone had a good time. So,
Perfect photo bomb opportunity.
thank you.
Can I just ask one question, Ms. Clover, please? First of all, thank you for the Special Olympics. I enjoy doing that every year, and I'm glad that we host that. So thank you very much. A couple of years ago, we received recognition for the, and excuse me if I pronounce it incorrectly here, the Vietnamese Cafe. And I had a chance to participate in that. I know that the kids go out and do the shopping, they come back and prepare the food, and it went away. And I'm kind of disappointed that it went away. Is there a reason why that happened? Or?
There's a couple of reasons. One, our group of students at the high school that we currently have don't have the skill set to run that. So they are working on getting those kids ready. Secondly, Dr. Tipton and I have been partnering on planning for more inclusive when the culinary arts kicks off. So we're going to really work on having more of like a co-teach situation where our kids are more inclusive and working side by side in the Culinary Arts Center versus a separate cafe from the restaurant with the Culinary Arts Center. So it's only 1 year that we've kind of been shut down, and then we're gonna pick back up partnering with the culinary arts restaurant.
Would these students still go out and do the shopping for the food? And
They sure will.
It's a great preparation for them.
They're doing a lot of the community-based instruction, like what you're describing. So I know one example is they often help with the angel tree shopping. So it's still, similar to going out and shopping for the restaurant inventory. But they will also be able to help participate in those activities with culinary arts.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, one more question, Ms. Glover.
Sure.
You'd mentioned on the pre-K program a waiting list. Do you know about how many kids are currently on that waiting list, or is it school dependent?
We currently have about 5 on our waiting list.
Okay.
We need 11 to 12 to build a class. So it kind of comes and goes, it ebbs and flows. As we get closer to August, we might have enough to add a class.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Sure.
So it's not really space issue as far as waiting list, it's really numbers to grow
It's
that.
actually, and it's both.
Both.
Space is an issue as well. So I know that the elementary principals who have pre-K, and Daniel and I have been looking at if we were to open a third section, where could we do that? So,
Okay.
yep.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Clover. Before we go into item number 9 and you recess into closed, Ms. Myers, one of the things we're studying right now in Superintendent's Leadership Team is a book called Everybody Matters, and it's the power of caring for your people like family. And ironically, today, the chapter that we did and studied dealt with celebrations and recognitions and how important those things are. And as you well know, one of the recognitions that we do, that's our big one that comes from Superintendent's Leadership Team, is our EEE award of engage and equip, empower our folks. And we said that's really about our staff. And to be part of a EEE, it has to be bigger than just your building, bigger than just your campus, bigger than just your department. And we're very fortunate to have a Director of Special Populations in Courtney Clover that's just done an outstanding job in expanding that piece out there that's beyond her department, beyond her building, in the running of the Special Olympics, and knowing what that means to people. And if that doesn't move you, then your wood's wet. If you can't get a fire going there, because that's a fantastic event. And Ms. Clover, and obviously she has a team that works with that, but the amount that falls on her shoulders to organize and get that directed is more than worthy of a EEE award of what she does. And so at this time, I would like to have Courtney come up and And so she mentioned her mother and daughter, so we'd like to go ahead and recognize them also, if they would stand up and be recognized. You know, because it all starts with example, you for her and her for her. So it goes both ways. So engage, equip, and empower. And then in the back, we have our mission statement. The mission of Little Elm ISD is to engage, equip, and empower each student to realize their full potential. And when you think about that, it says each student. It doesn't say those students who can be All-Americans and All-State and get the biggest award of all. Every student. And when you watch those kids in Special Olympics go out there, they're competing every bit as, if not harder, than other kids in the general population. And so, Courtney, we just thank you for your organization of that and the hard work you put into that. For that single day event and the difference that makes in the lives of kids, and I would say probably more so in the lives of adults that get to participate. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course, wisdom of the wolves.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Strike. At this time, the board will recess into closed meeting in PL1 as permitted by the Texas Opens Meeting Act, Code Subchapter 551.072 and 551.074 at 7:44 PM. We will open back up at 8:53 PM. First up, action item, discuss and approve the election of officers. At this time, we'll move forward with nominations for the officer positions. We'll start with the role of president, and with that, per board operating procedure, Dr. Strike will lead the nomination process.
Thank you, President Myers. At this time, I'm going to call for nominations are in order for the office of president.
I have a nomination of Melissa Myers.
Melissa Myers has been nominated for the office of president. Do we have a second on that nomination? This is again per board operating procedures.
Second.
We have a second. Did you get that? The second? Trying to help her out here. All right. Any further nominations? We have a second on Ms. Myers for office of the president. Any further nominations for office of the president? Hearing no further nominations, I'm going to close the nominations for office of the president. This time we will vote. All those in favor of Ms. Myers for office of president, please raise your hand. Motion.
We don't have to. We don't have to.
Nominations, well, she didn't put that in there, see? If not, nominations are closed and you go to vote.
Oh, no.
So this is,
No, okay, no.
this is per board operating procedures
Boy, that's not one.
and TASB. So I'm going to back up again on that. Nominations are closed. All those in favor of Ms. Myers for office of president, please raise your hand. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-0. Ms. Myers, the floor is yours.
We're back.
Thank you, Dr. Strike.
Can't wait till those new BOPs are approved.
Consultation going right now. Products carrying.
Let's do what I'm told.
Thanks, sir.
Which is what he does. Okay. I apologize, just clarifying point. All right, we'll move on to vice president. At this time, I'll call for nominations in order for the office of vice president.
I'll nominate David Montemayor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any further nominations for office of vice president? At this time, we have Mr. Montemayor is nominated for office of vice president. Any further nominations? Then if not, nominations are closed. As per BOP, we'll now vote in order of the nominations made. So all those in favor of Mr. Montemayor for office of vice president, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries with majority vote. All right. Next up, secretary. I'll now open nominations in order for office of secretary.
I'll nominate Jason Olson for office of secretary.
All right, Mr. Olson is nominated for office of secretary. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Did you get that? Okay. Are there any further nominations for office of secretary? Right now, we have Mr. Olson is nominated for office of secretary. Any further nominations? Then if not, nominations are closed. As per BOP, we'll vote on order of nominations made. All those in favor of Mr. Olson for office of secretary, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Majority vote.
Go take your seat.
Pack up and move.
You got your wish? Yes, I did.
Whoa, whoa,
Why do you think I
whoa,
wanted to nominate him?
You voted for.
Exactly.
Can you wait till I'm down on the other side before you make the pot shots?
Close the door now.
It's all love up here, all love.
Thank you.
Forgotten last time. Having loose seats and going.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
All right.
What do you want?
Moving on to item B under action. Discuss and approve further investigation in regards to proposal to add student representative to the Board of Trustees. Mr. Blackwood, I think this is under you.
Yeah, just kind of a review. I know it was, 12:45, something along those lines when I made the presentation last time. So it kind of flew a little bit over everyone's heads. Basically, in brief, I'll make this pretty quick on what the proposal and my idea is. I would like to see Little Elm, and especially the board, adopt a permanent position of an advisory position to the board from the student body, and allow them the opportunity to engage in, participate in the process, the discussion process, the same way the board does with any and all presenters, have the ability to question presenters and have questions asked of them. Obviously, they could not sit at our table, but we could possibly have them at the administration table or find another location for them to sit. But to be a permanent position in all the meetings and have essentially as equal rights as the board members do. The main concern that I have is we are always trying to engage, equip, and empower students as much as possible, and especially with one of the very big hot topics that came up recently with start times. Everyone kept saying, well, what about the kids? What about the kids? But I don't think anywhere in the entire process, from what I heard, almost nobody asked the kids what they thought about that. And several other things that have happened, not just recently, but just overall with some of the ideas that or some of the things that we're always discussing, is we're trying to make decisions based upon what is best for the kids, but rarely do we or the administration actually ask the kids. And so allow them that ability to be here and voice the opinion and how they think it will benefit them or hurt them, and get firsthand response from them. So that's the proposal that I'm asking for.
Okay. At this time, do we have a motion to approve further investigation in regards to the proposal to add student representatives to the Board of Trustees?
Madam President, I'd actually like to postpone this and table it to a further meeting, because I know there's more documentation that we have, and I'd like to get into a much deeper discussion on this one. So if we can move this maybe just to next month, because going over his presentation, like you said, it was 12:45, and we really haven't.
And I've
That is
wanted to have- I intended probably to be 10 to 15 minutes worth of discussion, but I blew through my whole presentation, I think, in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So I understand completely. So.
Okay, so the motion then is to postpone until, to table the motion?
Yeah.
Do we have a second? Do we have another agreement from another board member?
I think, yeah, just if it's a consensus.
Okay. Everybody's good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. At this time, we will table item B for the July meeting. Okay. All right, moving on to item C, discuss and approve the K through 2 literacy coach FTE for the 17-18 school year. Ms. Epps?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Strike. The administration would like to recommend the approval of an FTE to serve our Title I campuses. This would be a K-2 literacy coach, and it would be fully Title I funded. As far as specific questions, I did attach a job description in the board book so that you could take a look at the roles and responsibilities of the position. And in addition to that, if there are specific questions, Dr. Mecca has formulated this great idea to help serve our Title I campuses, and so I'm sure she would be glad to join me in answering questions.
At this time, do I have a motion to discuss and approve K through 2 literacy coach FTE for the 17-18 school year?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
So moved.
Second.
I'm second, I'm sorry. Second. All right, sorry.
You moved
Second.
You moved your own, so second.
Second.
Any questions and discussion from the
My
board?
bad. I'm thinking things through too many things.
It's not even late. It's like 9 o'clock. Any questions for Ms. Epps? So it looked like, I think the only question I had, it was about a 73,000, looks like.
Right, it's an
funded.
admin 2 position, so it's not a straight teaching position, it's administrative, so that they would be working with training our teachers to enable them to work more effectively on the campus. So it's not a person that will go in and work necessarily specifically with students, but have a bigger impact by training on each campus.
But it's a campus-based position, correct?
It's a district-based position, is my understanding.
Well, but I mean, in terms of daily commitment,
Oh, yes, on
I think that's
on the
important
campus,
for the
Title I
board to know
campuses.
that, yes.
Yes, the person would be rotating from campus to campus during, right, so that they would be training effectively, yes. And it would be constant, a constant, what do I want to say, rotation.
Would they also roll into our summer training as well? I mean, they would produce training for,
Yes. So the way that,
sorry.
the way that we've envisioned this, it would be split funded between Title I and Title II. Title II is our professional development federal funds. We have 4 Title campuses at the elementary level. And so in a 1-month period, what we envision is that they would spend a week at a campus. And during that week, they would be coaching our K1 and 2 teachers on literacy in reading and writing, and how do you teach. And that coaching can occur by them modeling lessons with the teacher's students, where that literacy coach is teaching the class and the teacher is watching, and then the coach watches the teacher teach the kids and gives feedback. Also, it can be through working with the PLCs at K1-2 on that, and then also because we would be split funding it with the Title II Part A, the professional development federal funds, then they would also be able to do some professional learning during the school day after school, and then also teaching during the summit. And so, but they would be underneath the supervision of Dr. Glover in curriculum and learning, but they would be at the campus for their day-to-day job. So they would be one week every month at a Title I campus. So they would rotate through the 4 campuses in a 1-month period.
Any additional questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, discuss and approve requested courses for 17-18. You're not Miss Dr. Glover.
No, President Myers, board members, Dr. Strike. Dr. Ashley Glover is actually in San Antonio at the PLC conference, so I'll be speaking on her behalf. But again, thank you for letting me talk about some of the courses that we're requesting for your approval tonight. And one of the things that as we look at our mission, our values, and our goals, a recurring theme in that is opportunities for kids. So as you look at the courses that we're asking for approval, all of these courses are great opportunities for our kids, and that's our goal. Is we want to provide more higher level opportunities, CTE opportunities. Several of these courses are CTE, and some of them are extended courses. For example, our culinary arts, that's going to be new, and we're also extending it to advanced culinary arts. Others are teacher-requested courses like social media marketing and fashion marketing, which again, we feel those are great opportunities for kids, just expanding what we're offering for our kids. And it's on the second page or the second slide, additional dual credit opportunities and, some advanced math opportunities. Journalism 2 is also an extended course. We're adding that. But again, our goal is just to provide some additional courses that we think will be very beneficial for our kids.
Okay, at this time, do I have a motion to discuss and approve the requested courses for 17-18?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Glover? Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher? Got Glover on. I keep reading it.
I see you got one too, so I'm good.
There's your one mistake.
There's your one.
Right, there you go.
There you go. Earth and space sciences as well as the horticulture sciences. And I don't know if it's something that you guys have thought about, but they have that new trail in the back now. And walking that new trail, I think there was a really great opportunity for something like a learning center opportunity.
Like an outdoor type of
learning opportunity, because we got horticultural sciences, we got earth sciences, space sciences, and some of those areas around where the new trail is, may be a great opportunity for us to partner with someone as well as the city for, outdoor learning activity with some of these particular science engagement. So anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And looking at those types of opportunities, that's definitely something that we want to continue doing. So no, it's great.
Any other questions? I just had one question. The Lobos Embracing Academics Daily, could you elaborate a little bit on that one?
Yes, that's actually going to be offered at our middle school. And this is something that Mr. Miller and his team came up with. It's not Avid, but it's very close to Avid. It's and he actually wrote something up for me, which I won't read it word for word, but it's an opportunity for students to explore the community they live in, career options, college opportunities. They'll participate in a variety of activities focused on student leadership, social and emotional skills, advocacy, diversity, and respect. So it's really a nice leadership opportunity for kids at the middle school level. And I know we'll have that at the high school level, but this will lead right into that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And he's super excited about it also.
Well, I had seen it before, but I just didn't really know what it was, so, okay. Any other questions?
No.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, discuss and approve the increase to Little Elm ISD employee healthcare contribution. Mr. Anderson?
Good evening, Board Trustees and Dr. Strike. Yeah, I'm sure as you're aware, all of our health insurance premiums are going up this year quite substantially, from $10 for some plans to up to $407 per month. And this administration, we visited with what we could do to help out our employees in this situation. We'd like to recommend that the administration recommends approval of an increase, which of $26 from $325 to $351 per month for employee health insurance. And this would cover the employee-only premium for the active care high deductible. So at this time, the administration recommends approval of the increase to the Little Elm ISD's employee health care contribution as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the increase
So-
as submitted?
Sorry, forgot you to do that last minute. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Mine won.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson?
Yes, so what you said increase was from 10 to, what was it?
Well, there's one, the high deductible is going up $10 per month for employee only. And then there's another, for the active care too, the employee and family is going up $407 per month.
So
And
what
we
is
have
it?
about 30 employees enrolled in the active care 2 family.
So what is the monthly premium total for that?
For employee and family, it's going up to $2,004 a month.
31, page 3 and 4.
Oh my God, they might as well just pay their medical bills themselves.
So I think as, with Little Elm, at least having the ability to say that we pay for employee-only health insurance for all of our employees, it is at the high deductible.
Cheaper to pay the fine. Wow. Than it is to pay the coverage. So I think the overall goal then, Mr. Anderson, though, was this is going up so that it at least covers the employee
Yes,
costs for the single.
it covers an employee, so all of our employees can opt to have health insurance. Of course, it is at the high deductible and employee only.
Yep.
And I think competitive. I know Cleota looked around at some of the other school districts, and we will be, I believe, one of the higher contributing school districts in the area if we could cover our employees fully.
So how many, I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead, Mr. English.
Got to calm down a little bit.
No,
I'm sorry, when I see this, I'm not sure if I completely understand how is it that our employer has 4,500 people, and I think we have the current premium that we pay for the high plan is about $600 a month. And you're talking about professionals who are higher paid, and to see a school district in which our professionals have to pay $2,000 is beyond outrageous.
Well, it's what the employer contributes.
It's just,
That brings it down.
yeah, but it's beyond outrageous. It's very difficult for our educators and our administrators who have lives to be able to try to afford 2 house payments, which is what you're asking them to do. Right? You're asking them to pay for a house and then pay for a house 2 more times. So this is definitely something I think when we talk about advocacy from a legislative standpoint of view, this is something that I think we should really look from a legislative standpoint of view. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but sorry, this sends me over to
Jane Nelson is all ears.
sends me over the side a little bit, but I appreciate it.
Any other comments, discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Anderson, you're still up with discuss and approve Little Elm ISD contract summary report.
Yeah, the contract summary report. In it, the major one's the ESC Region 11 contract that actually had a decrease of about $48,000. And these contracts cover a wide range of services from Region 11. And we've been contracting them for quite a few years. And then the other contract is actually in the consent agenda, and that's with CoServe. And I think you'll approve that in the consent agenda.
CoServe.
So the administration recommends approval of the Little Elm ISD contract summary report as submitted.
What are zeros? We transferring zero?
Oh,
It's going to be consent agenda.
Oh, that's on the
Part of the
consent
consent
agenda.
agenda.
Yeah, that one's down here.
the question up was just that it's all zeros
All zeros.
as far as
For the co-serve.
for the co-serve.
Yeah, the co-serve is, the co-serve provides Little Elm ISD with funds to give scholarships, but I think it's $20,000 a year.
Okay.
And the scholarships are for teachers, but they can up, the limit is the interest that's earned. So what we're going to do is transfer the funds to the Education Foundation for them to use it.
Yep, gotcha. All right, I understand now.
All right, I need a motion to approve Little Elm ISD contract summary report dated June 19th as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up, discuss and approve Little Elm ISD expenditures over 50,000 summary report.
Yes, we have two expenditures over 50,000. One's for operational services to Joe W. Fly Company, which is e-mist equipment needed for to more effectively disinfect buildings. And this is something that Danny brought in the company to test it. And so he's asking us to purchase this piece of equipment for $62,000. And then Mayan is, Daniel Gallagher is requesting the $71,000 purchase, and this is a supplemental add-on to our current Mayan contract. As you can read, which allows our students at risk Title I to have additional support and reading instruction. And the administration recommends approval of the Little Elm ISD expenditures over $50,000 summary report as submitted.
I need a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, so the equipment, is that fumigation equipment?
Yes, and what I understand it is equipment that they'll build, it's more than one machine that they can cover all of our schools, and they spray from chairs and floors and it kind of covers it. And he has an efficacy report, if you ever wanted to see it, to kind of prove the value of it. That includes higher attendance because kids aren't out as much because of illness. And that's what these machines are.
The only question I had, so there wasn't actually the report itself in board book. So was the 62 the total impact for Mayan and the fumigation?
The e-mist is 62,887. Mayan 71,626.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Last item, under action, discuss and approve financial reports.
Yeah, this is the April 2017 financial report. And the budget amendments includes, goes through June 2017. And we do have some major budget amendments. There's a $425,906 increase in fund balance. Estimated revenue is increasing about $2.5 million, mainly to additional property tax revenue of $1.4 million. And our methodology and our estimating our tax revenue and then budgeting is we budget at about 98%, leave about 2% for some unknowns in our forecasting of property tax revenue. and additional $900,000 in state revenue, and that's mainly as a result of increased enrollment and attendance. Our enrollment increased from what we had budgeted, and also our attendance increased over the last about 1%, which gave us, just by the attendance, about almost $500,000 in additional revenue. Yeah, about 1%. And what we do when we're forecasting our property tax revenue and our state funding, it's the driver behind it is ADA, average daily attendance, and we use historical 3 years back, the average, and this year we just our attendance went up quite significant, about 1%. And then received $187,000 in insurance proceeds from hail damage to roofs and vehicles. And Rod's under negotiation, and he has the roof consultant in, and our TASB, who covers our property and casualty. They're right now looking at all of our roofs, and we're trying to come up with some settlements. So this, of course, is just a small portion of that, but we are recording it. And then on the appropriations side, we're increasing $2 million, mainly due to the following: $299,000 for campus furniture and fixture needs. You know, we're reaching the summer, so what we do, like we do every year, is we look at the needs in the district and see how much we can cover, whether it's renovations, and so we bring all the principals in, and this was a result of those meetings. And then $143,000 for some repairs to vehicles due to the hail. $581,000 to Paul Roof repair. What I understand is Paul roofs are in pretty bad shape compared to our other schools. $290,000 for security, safety, and SROs at the campuses, and this is paying, I believe, about $100,000 for the vehicles that were approved last year, but are being paid out of this year's budget. And for from fob readers, and then $90,000 for some maintenance equipment, mainly for floors. $375,000 for a teacher computer refresh. Oops. And this here's our fund balance analysis. As again, we're increasing our fund balance, $425,000. We had a $4.1 million deficit, and after this proposed amendment, it'll decrease down to a $3.7 million deficit. And again, I expect that due to cost savings, when we through the end of August 31st, I believe that number will be quite a bit lower, maybe about $1 million deficit, I'll say at this time. But and that's mainly, payroll is one area where we do have cost savings because we budget at full annualized salaries. But yet we may hire somebody partial in, or somebody may leave and the position may not get filled. And this is the financial that we look at every month. Our initial budget at the beginning of the year was $61.6 million. Our proposed amendments, and this is our estimated revenue. We had $2.4 million in estimated revenue that we just went over earlier. So we have $64.8 million. And this is the functions that are at the campus, and we're still at 77% of our appropriations, our budget at the campus level. And again, our appropriations, 61.6. Our amended budget now would be $67 million. And our deficit's going from $4.1 million deficit to $3,721,468. And that's just a summary of our budget to actual. Our total revenue, we realized about 83.7% as of the end of April. Our expenditures, almost 71% of our budget. And then just the other transfer out. And this is our cash flow. Our beginning cash was $62.5 million. We've decreased about $3.5 million. So our ending cash at the end of April is $58.9 million.
What is the percentage of that in investments versus cash? Do we know?
Cash and investment balances are combined.
Okay. Do we know what the breakout is? Do you have a?
Oh, no, I don't have it here. You do have it in your board,
Okay.
in the details of your board packet.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. Oh, 20, okay, here's 29. Okay, got it.
And we invest in tax pool and the pool accounts, and Lone Star.
Big star, one star.
And these are the two capital projects that we have going on, the high school expansion. This is just year-to-date expenditures. And then the transportation operation facility. And then the total capital projects, we spent about 10 million of the 25.5 that's been allocated to these projects. And these are the other reports that are in your board packet. And so at this time, the administration recommends approval of the April 2017 financial reports as presented.
Need a motion to approve financial reports for April 2017 as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. This time we'll move into consent agenda. We have one request to pull item B, which is discuss and approve salary range schedules for the 17-18 school year. Need a motion. Thank you.
Minus. Okay.
Yeah, motion to pull item B from consent agenda. He rushed me. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that item? Okay. We have a motion and a second to pull. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. All right, motion carries. So item B, discuss and approve salary range schedules for the 17-18 school year. Ms. Epps, did you want to add anything for that item from what was previously discussed? So I just need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Then we will move, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed? Do we have any abstaining? Alex, and so we note Alex, Mr. Flores, and Mr. Blackwood abstained. All right. All right, next up, just the consent agenda items. I need a motion to approve consent.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Consent agenda approved. Comments for this evening. The only thing, I just thank you to my fellow board members for asking to have me back in the president role. I appreciate your support. And hopefully I can continue on moving the meetings forward and be productive. That's all the items that I had for this evening, so I'll open it up to Mr. English.
I do not have anything in particular. Just want to thank everyone for a successful year once again and everything you've done and the hard work. And really appreciate it. We'll continue on coming August. So thank you for everything you've done, including our teachers and staff, and make this year once again successful. So,
Mr. Blackwood?
Again, kind of just echoing, daily on is just kind of keep the positive vibes going and keep everything rolling the way it is. It's been an exciting first year, and I think all of us are looking forward to see where we're going now.
Thank you. Mr. Olson?
Just congratulations again to our UIL State Band and Choir kids. They did an excellent job. Memorial Day weekend.
After graduation.
After graduation, driving down there was just so much fun. Other than that, one item, President Myers, I would like to see added and have maybe staff look into is the electric charging stations. I know you can reach out to, I had this conversation with Blaze and Associates. Maybe see, he had expressed to me that there are lots of grants out there. So maybe if we could see if there's something we could get some grants to have electric charging stations at our schools, maybe starting small, 1 or 2, and then moving on depending upon the grants. I'd really like to see that to show that LA ISD is being eco-friendly and supporting both teachers and guests with that possibility. Other than that, thank you for support of the board. Looking forward to the next year as secretary, so thank y'all very much. Appreciate that. Yeah. Get my wrist ready to write a bunch sign.
Ms. Harding?
I don't have much to say, just I guess thank you guys, and I just wanted to, everybody that worked on the new things in here, this is nice having, because no more eye charts trying to read way back there, so it was really nice having everything right here, so good job. I like this a lot, and that's really all I have to say, so thank you guys. Hopefully I'll get home at a decent hour.
Mr. Flores?
No comments so that you can get home at a decent hour.
All right, at this time, superintendent comments.
Just a couple things. The first is, as you know, our Lobo family lost Karen Mayberry, and several in this room were at her funeral. And just an amazing example of what one person can do to impact so many lives. To see all the kids that were at her funeral that were former choir students and current choir students, with 3 of the choir students actually performing at her funeral that are returning students. And then to see all of those that came back and gathered from years back to right up to current date and singing the song that they closed every concert with, and that is Why We Sing. And it was pretty emotional to see that. But she was an exceptional educator and touched kids' lives in so many ways, and touched adult lives too, just because of her positive attitude and that everybody can be somebody. And she was one of those that took that challenge that if you said you couldn't sing, she'd prove you wrong and help you become a singer. And she didn't try with me, which might have been her downfall. But she is an amazing, amazing teacher. I love to go. I went to every one of their banquets. I love to go sit in her classroom. Went to all her piano recitals. Pat Robbins and I were able to sit in all her piano recitals, and how unique that she would take time to teach beginning kids piano all the way to advanced kids. But that's one of those holes that is really, really hard to fill. And I know that Ms. Pentecost is going to say, I can't fill it, but I'll get another choir teacher that will have to make his or her own way, because you just don't replace somebody like that, because she had such a uniqueness to her. And so a great loss to the Lobo family, but I think that she was that prime example of what it means to be part of a family, just because of how she treated kids. And the second is, I'm just going to read a letter. And it's addressed to Dear President Myers. This letter is to share with you and the members of the Elm ISD Board of Trustees that I'll be retiring through the Texas retirement system effective December 31st, 2017. I will continue to serve the district in a role of leadership and support until my last official day in the district. It's been my great honor and pleasure to serve over the past few years. The Board of Trustees has made my job so much easier due to their singular focus of always putting children first in all decisions, and at the same time being cognizant of the community needs and taxpayer concerns. In addition, this board has a unique heart for the LE ISD staff members who serve our children in such an unselfish manner. This district is on the verge of greatness, and accomplishments by our staff and ultimately our children will be known well beyond the borders of the district. I encourage the board to continue to support, as has been the current practice, the building of a strong culture of engaging, equipping, and empowering both children and staff. Thank you for your faith and trusting me as the superintendent to always do the right thing for our children and community. Respectfully submitted, Lowell Strike.
Thank you, Dr. Strike. I will say that, obviously we are deeply saddened that you'll be retiring. We understand your position. I think from our standpoint, and I'll speak a little bit for the board, is that you came in to our district in a time that we desperately needed you. You brought in tremendous integrity and vision. You strengthened programs. You enhanced our district in a way that we can't ever thank you enough. I think you've really made it possible for our teachers and our staff to get more professional learning, to mentor people, to really give them the focus that they needed to advance their own careers. To say that, you're replaceable, you're not. It's going to be a very difficult time for us as a board, but we do greatly appreciate everything that you've done for our district and for our kids, every single kid that's in here in our district. And I know that was your primary focus, is to not lose sight of one child. And that meant the world to me. I don't know about the rest of you, but that was the one thing that really stood out to me. And I think you've carried through. In the small amount of 2.5 years, almost 3, you've done more than what I ever thought we could accomplish in this time frame. So I do thank you for your assistance in the district, and thank you for being here, and we appreciate all your time and assistance.
So, I have to say something. It's sometimes I think it's really hard to express coming onto the board at the time we came onto the board and taking on a leadership role at the time as president. I remember us sitting and talking and just discussing what were some of the needs of the district, where did we want to go forward, and more importantly, the one thing that was the most important was the kids. And I remember sitting there and we talked greatly about that. And just talking to you, I knew that we were putting the district in the right hands for the right people, more importantly, for the kids. So, it's really heartfelt to see you go, but I can't thank you enough for what you've done for us. It's really important.
Mr. Flores.
If I may, I still recall the first time I met you during that interview. I think maybe you were the third candidate, and it was very evident to me, and I later found out that my peers felt the same way, that you were our candidate. So I thank you for everything you've done, and in honor of you, put on my hat.
Very good. Wow. He's turning red, actually.
You can wear that the whole next meeting.
Okay, and I will try not to cry. I'll keep it short and sweet. I think all of us, we knew we had a lot of work ahead of us. Like Mr. Flores said, I think we all were struck by you when we met you. I mean, you left a very big impression, and we knew we needed someone that could come in and elevate an entire district. I mean, it wasn't just our staff, it wasn't just our kids, it was the entire community. And I thought we were looking for a unicorn. We obviously found one, yay. We had a miracle happen here, and so thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've done. So.
Any other comments? All right, at this time, I'm going to call for a motion to close or to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? We are closed at 9:40.